we are going to cover 3 different topics today. One is going to be figure 8 wrist roll extensions. One is going to be some basic hyper motions, like all this kind of jazz. We'll work with that. And then the last one will be the behind the back 360 aerial, which looks like this. Sam had also requested a behind the back butterfly, but I don't quite have this motion down good enough to really demonstrate it. It's something I might have to practice. But we may just cover some basics as to how to acquire that. So thank you. All of these are requests from Protricks members from Tuesday's Zoom class. I do a Zoom class every Tuesday right now where it's an interactive class where we all just jam out. I watch you train and maybe give you some hints and advice. If you're interested in that, that's on my Patreon, patreon.com/Flotricks, and it's the Protricks, the Flotricks Pro group. With that said, let's go ahead and just get started. First, I'm going to start with the behind the back 360. I'm going to give you, there's 4 steps to getting the behind the back 360. One is, let's just go ahead and start from the beginning here. We're going to start by standing chest forward. We're spinning the chucks in my right hand. It's going counterclockwise. This is 1. 2 is my right foot and my right hand both move over, but my chuck does not. So my chuck stays in this position, but as you see, my hand moves over with my right foot until I'm 360 degrees. My left foot stays the same. So 2 is this way. 3 is probably the hardest part, but just kind of keep this in mind, keep this focus in mind. Pull your left arm backwards and just see if you can aim your chuck to kind of tap the top of your, like the inside of your armpit by your shoulder. So 3 is going to be this direction, but we're eventually going to throw it. But what I'd like to make sure is that this chuck can kind of just lightly tap the top of your shoulder over here. Because you're going to let go as it's going upwards, you want to make sure you have the right angle. So 1, 2, and then 3 is going to go here. This is going to be swinging upwards. You're going to let go when the chuck is almost touching your shoulder here. So 3 is this way. And then you're going to let go as it starts to swing upwards. You can also give a twist of your wrist just a little bit to get more of a flick. And what should happen is it should go generally straight up. As it goes straight up, number 4 is just simply turning and grabbing the chuck out of the air. Now, of course, with anything, you're going to have to know how to grab a front to front. It's going to be very similar in like a front to front throw. So if you don't know how to grab one of these, you're waiting for the rotation to come forward and you're going to kind of chase it down. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to grab it when it's right around, like my hand's going to come down, like right when it's around the 9 o'clock mark, I'm going to grab it and then I'm going to pull it downwards to keep the motion going. So my hand is waiting. As soon as I grab it, I pull it down in motion and then I just kind of loop it out. So here to there. All in one, and all 4 steps together is 1, 2, 3, 4. Number 3 is the hardest. Just remember to release when it almost touches your shoulder and give it a little bit of a sideways twist and it'll flick up. The next thing we're going to talk about is going to be extensions. So extensions, as we're doing a figure 8 like this, really what you need to know the 3-beat weave in order to do this. An extension, all it simply is as your hands are crossing, we're moving to the other side, uncross, cross, move to the other side, uncross, cross. All we're doing is we're basically elongating this. So as soon as we go over here, what's going to happen is instead of this little uncross and cross, which is very small, this is going to go, this is still going to be a small movement to uncross and cross. So the left hand is still going from top to bottom, but the right hand is making a big swooping over the top. Because of this, the left hand has to move a little bit slower like this. So as we're spinning it, it'll be like, see? So my left hand does a very, very, very slight one while the right hand goes big. And you can practice this a little bit just by spinning with your left hand. This is how you're going to be with the right hand. And then all you're going to do is just kind of slow it down a little bit. You can even wave your arm and then make a big swing across to cross it over. Once your arms are crossed, you're going to take it over to the other side and you're back to the 3-beat weave. Now this can go both directions. So if my right hand is extending this direction when I'm facing this side, then when I go to the other side, as I uncross, my left hand can do the same thing. It's basically going from the bottom to the top, and then we're crossing over. Bottom to the top, cross over, bottom to the top. And in that way, you can almost work it. So if we're doing the 3-beat weave, we can swing. We can get it to go continually as well as just pulling it back in. All we have to do is not swing it big and we can go back into that 3 beat. So again, anytime your hand, whatever hand's on the bottom is gonna swing over to the top. All we're doing is just extending that circle, but we have to slow the other hand down. The other hand has to slow down. If your other hand doesn't slow down, it won't catch up to the extra time it takes for the other hand to make it. Last but not least, let's talk about hyperstyle for a second. If you've taken my class, you know the 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're gonna basically go over the 1, 2, 3, 4, but with 2 chucks. So if you don't have the 1, 2, 3, 4, just keep in mind, whenever I talk about a 1, 2, 3, 4, it's gonna be opposite side top is 1, same side top is 2, same side bottom is 3, and opposite bottom is 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Whenever I talk about a number 3 bounce, for instance, it's under here, right? We can do the same thing with doubles. If you have not taken my class on single chucks, hyperstyle, you want to first make sure you can comfortably do this combo. So you hold your hand out, this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, and that's 4. And it just goes in one big pattern, 1, 2, 3, 4. We're gonna kind of do the similar pattern, but with doubles. Keep in mind your bounce points is gonna be by the balance point. You don't wanna smack yourself around the bottom or you're gonna do lots of damage, obviously. So what we're gonna do with this though, now we have 2 of them, is we're just gonna extend one arm out to do this. So for instance, let's use my right hand for instance. My left hand's gonna push forward, so my left hand's slightly in the back. What I'm gonna do is, now the way that I do hyper with 2 of them is I learn to swing one direction and then I kind of lift my other hand into my arm. The reason for that is because you don't wanna put a lot of force into your arm like this. Essentially, we're just gonna swing it upwards and let it kind of glide over to the back of the arm. With both hands, so if we're doing our 3 beats, for instance, I could stop here. We're gonna pull this out to crank position. Crank position is essentially kind of like a 3 beat, except for we're making the circles, we're spreading our arms out so they're no longer crossing and uncrossing, but they're just kind of sitting still. With this position, if you look, the easiest way to make sure that you're doing it right is the chucks are meeting where my chest is. Do you see how they're crossing at the same time towards the chest? If you can't get this type of motion properly, one hand goes up while the other goes down. So here, like this, you can kind of balance it until it becomes subtle movements to get it over this way. And then to start, we're just gonna push our left hand forward, and we're gonna drop it like this. And what this is gonna do is it's gonna bounce it the opposite direction, boom. So again, we're here, we're in the crank, boom, like that. The cool thing is you notice now we're in butterfly position. Actually, we're in reverse butterfly position here. So this changes things. And so now we're gonna take our right hand and we're gonna bounce it again, boom. And guess what? We're back to the original position. We're back to the weaves. If I bounce it again, poof, we go into butterfly position. See, we're back to the butterfly position. If I bounce it again, back to the weaves. Now, if you do the other hand, it will allow you to do the opposite direction. So now if we take my left hand and do the same thing, we go under, it will bounce it, and now we're in the forward butterfly position, you see? If I bounce it again, we're back to where we were. And this is really interesting because just bouncing it off the triceps will give you a whole lot of variety. For instance, I bounce it off the top, I'm in butterfly, I bounce it with the other side, now I'm in like a reverse weave, I bounce it again, and now we're back to butterfly, and I bounce it again, and we're back to weaves, and I bounce it again, and we're back to butterflies. So in general, you can always use one bounce with the chucks to create, to change the motion. There's gonna be more motions that we can eventually do, but just get used to bouncing it off your arms. So we're, boom, you know? Now we're a butterfly. Let's get out of butterfly, boom, we're back into the weaves. Boom, we're back into butterflies. Boom, we're back into weaves. Boom, and it's just, all I'm doing is sticking one arm out and letting it bounce, which is really sick, super easy to do. Hopefully that helps. Get that first and then we'll work on more, but kind of get the pattern of just bouncing it once while your hands are moving, and then we'll continue forward from there. Last but not least, the behind the back butterfly is not an easy move. I haven't worked on it in like 10 years, but the basic idea goes just like everything else. You kind of have to train yourself. I would probably, how would I do that? I would probably start with both chucks by your shoulders, pushing your arms back like this, and they have to swing at the exact same time. Keeping in mind, if you know the butterfly, one hand is slightly in front of the other, and that's what causes it to create a butterfly-like motion. It's gonna be the same thing behind. You're gonna wanna have one hand slightly in front of the other, and they're gonna have to move. Now, I have not practiced this in a long time, so it's gonna be, it's gonna be a little bit tricky for me But finding the pattern is always the same. You gotta get your hands to lock together so they both become one movement. Hands are not moving at the same time. Try to lock them so that way as one hand moves, the other one follows with it. And that will make it easier so you don't have to think about two independently moving hands, you don't have to think about two independent moving hands. They connect together and it just moves as one solid motion. Can I do this move right now? I probably could if I put in a little more time. I do understand the concept. A lot of times it's good. I think reverse might be easier to get to this point, but it's just because of the transition. Whenever you're transitioning to the back, it's gonna kind of pull down by the waist and roll into whatever you need it to do. So hopefully this helps. Again, I just want to make this a little bit, I'm going to send this over to the Patreon. I haven't released a Patreon video in a while. These are questions that Protricks members have asked, so I definitely wanted to cover it. I hope you guys are doing well, and I will talk to you all soon. This Sunday, again, we're having another live stream, either at 5 p.m. or 7 p.m. I haven't decided yet. I probably am going to try to shoot for 5, even though I prefer 7, but we'll see once we get to Sunday. But hope you guys are doing well. Send me a message if you need anything.